Hello, my name is Lola, and I'm going to be reacting to Austin Powers movie by Nostalgia Critic. Actually, only one of the movies I remember there was an opening where Austin Powers was just butt naked and he's running through a hotel or a suite and like every animate object, even the credits. I think even like were covering his privates. It's just so funny. That's the only thing I remember about him. Anyway, let's see what Nostalgia Critic has to say. And if you want to like, comment, subscribe to my channel, you can. Or if you don't want to, that's fine too. I just do this for fun. Here we go.
This episode brought to you by Stamps.com. Why go to the store to get stamps when you can have them printed right at home for your convenience? Also brought to you by DoorDash, the app that brings you food you're craving right now, right to your door. Hello, I'm the Nostalgia Critic. I remember it so you don't have to. It might sound strange, but there was a time when Austin Powers kind of ruled the world. Younger viewers might be thinking, really? The Mike Myers movies? I mean, they're funny, I guess, but why would these be something everyone was obsessed over? Keep in mind, at this character's height, one of his movies was the third highest grossing film of the year, beating out Toy Story 2, The Matrix, and even a Bond film, which is one of the franchises the comedies satirize. So what was it that made what seemed like such a niche film series into a surprise blockbuster phenomenon, and why are we maybe a little thankful that it's over?
Well, I'm sorry, do I bore you? Or do I make you Randy?
Well, let's start with the person who came up with it, Mike Myers. Myers made a pretty big name for himself at SNL, playing a wide range of memorable characters. Some of them were already turning out hit movies. While he was popular, though, you couldn't quite say he was a megastar yet. There was a fear that his material might be too focused on too specific an audience. Yes, Wayne's World did great, but So I Married an Axe Murderer, not as much. That was the fear when he released Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery in 1997. The film was a satire of spy flicks from the 60s. Films like In Like Flynn, Casino Royale. Definitely not that one, though it would be fun to see Woody Allen in this predicament. In fact, the film was almost a parody of parodies of James Bond. Again, a seemingly very specific audience to hit. The movie was about a British spy in the 60s, played by Myers, who has to chase his arch nemesis, Dr. Evil, also played by Myers, to the future to stop him from taking over the world. Do people even remember that anymore? This brings him to the 90s, where you know the story, even if you don't know the story, they don't fit in, resulting in haha.
Only sailors use condoms, baby.
Not in the 90s, Austin.
Well, they should, those filthy beggars. They go from port to port.
There's a few things to keep in mind when this movie came out. One is, outside of James Bond, the mass public weren't that familiar with the style of film being satirized. Yes, In Like Flint is known, but you didn't really see teens flocking to releases of it. Another is Myers, as Dr. Evil, wasn't advertised, which is one of the reasons his face is hidden throughout the first third. So when it's revealed, it gets a big laugh. And as many have pointed out, he's debatably much funnier than Powers because where some things don't go his way, nothing goes Dr. Evil's way. Including his out-of-nowhere and wonderfully awkward relationship with his son, played by Seth Green.
I really think he wants to kill me.
We don't want to kill each other.
Actually, the boy's quite astute. I really am trying to kill him.
I guess I should point out this voice is also very similar to Dana Carvey's impression of Lorne Michaels. You can hear a little bit of a similar impression on the TV Funhouse intro.
Well, don't look at me like I'm frickin' Frankenstein. Give your father a hug.
I'm back here with my girl.
This, among a few other things, caused a rift between Myers and Carvey, which since then has been patched up. I want to bring this up because everyone thinks it's only one impression when clearly it's a mix of Michaels and Blofeld from You Only Live Twice.
The firing power inside my crater is enough to annihilate a small army.
By caliber, of course, I mean both the size of their gun barrels and the high quality of their characters.
Now, it doesn't mean Myers wasn't inspired by Carvey's impression, but I do think it's worth noting it is 2 impressions to make 1 character. I don't know, I feel like too many people overlook that despite how obvious it may seem. Another thing to point out, despite a lot of critics enjoying it, a lot of them did point out Myers sure does like his poo-poo and pee-pee humor.
How dare you break wind before me?
I didn't know it was your turn.
Now, some blue jokes definitely tie into the spy parodies, like the laughably sexy names of the women.
You seem surprised to see me, Miss Vagina.
Also, those shots that just barely hide the star's privates pushed to the limit with everyday objects and not so everyday objects, conveniently covering everyone's goods. Sometimes with another person's goods. That's actually pretty brilliant.
Don't forget these.
Oh, thanks.
There you go.
But there's also a lot of dick jokes, toilet jokes, jokes that, let's be honest, seem more geared towards first graders who just figured out the only thing funnier than hearing a fart is seeing a fart.
Pardon me for being rude. It was not me. It was my food. It just popped up to say hello, and now it's gone back down below.
And yeah, there's nothing wrong with this humor if it's done right, but it doesn't really seem to match the spy theme. But I bring this up for a specific reason. When Austin Powers came out, it was a modest success. Some people say it underperformed because a Mike Myers film should do better. But again, I think it overperformed considering the niche audience it was going for. But there's something important to pay attention to in the following 2 years. It's video rentals. Austin Powers was rented a lot from video stores, which indicates not only did a lot of people have interest in it, just not before seeing a few other kind of big titles, but also that kids and teens who maybe didn't have the money to buy it were renting it a lot. And I think that's where the gross out humor plays a big part. Yes, adults can have a good laugh at this too, but kids don't need to know what James Bond or In Like Flint is to laugh at this. They like it because it's funny looking people with funny sounding voices having everything go wrong and, of course, plunge their faces into doo-doo along the way. And while I personally like the spy comedy stuff, particularly with the villains more than the he said words my teacher says I can't say material, I'll admit I do personally get a laugh from a few of these jokes that I should probably know better than to laugh at.
Who does number 2 work for?
That's right, buddy. You show that turd who's boss.
The first one did just well enough to greenlight a sequel, but the people making it were catching wind that the first film was getting rented out like crazy. So they put more money into the second film, The Spy Who Shagged Me. Or, since shag is a dirty word in Britain, The Spy Who Hero Me. They put more money not only in the budget, but also into the advertising, as they cleverly made it look like you were watching a trailer for The Phantom Menace, but then revealed it was anything but.
Years ago, an empire was destroyed. Now, the saga will continue.
You were expecting someone else?
Probably the best part is the trailer mentions you should go see Star Wars instead.
If you see only one movie this summer, see Star Wars.
This generated major hype, and Austin Powers went from a film that didn't even break the top 30 to the 3rd highest grossing film of the year, beaten only by The Sixth Sense and, well, you guessed it, Star Wars. Everyone seemed to love it except critics. They ripped it apart.
Ooh.
And they weren't wrong. So this is where the whole Austin Powers craze kind of gets interesting, because all the complaints critics had about this movie were legit complaints. Austin Powers goes back in time to the 60s to get his mojo back, which was stolen by Dr. Evil. So Austin is no longer a fish out of water, and the environment is funny for maybe 10 minutes of a film, but not the entire running time. Also, they seemed aware that the gross out humor went over well, so they leaned even heavier into it. And I do mean heavier. They create a character, again satirizing the descriptive names of the Bond film characters, called Fat Bastard, who, as you'd expect, is a fat bastard.
Yeah.
He spits, he shits, he screams a lot, he wants to eat babies.
I eat a baby!
I like too they turn it into a running joke like, hey, remember that classic eating babies routine?
Kinda looks like a baby.
I'm gonna eat you! Baby! The other white meat!
You keep your money and I'll get your baby.
Baby! It's what's for dinner!
Stop saying that. Make him stop saying that.
Elizabeth Hurley in the most insulting ways, saying she was a robot the whole time, which, again, could be funny, like they make up excuses why the women keep changing in spy films. But they never do it again in the next one. The woman's just replaced. Speaking of which, Heather Graham is no Elizabeth Hurley.
Oh, behave.
Not if I can help it.
Oh, God.
It's the love interest in Austin Powers film, who cares? But Hurley did legit bring this anchored weight to the role where Graham leaves no impact outside of eye candy. She's like Alicia Silverstone from Clueless if you told her, don't be funny, in a comedy.
I've had some bad relationships in the past, and I have been known to be jealous.
Well, Austin, I think this time you may have finally met your match.
I've beaten Dr. Evil before.
I was talking about me.
Welcome to the 90s. You're going to be very lonely.
I must have said something wrong, so he just left all of a sudden.
For what's obviously supposed to be a forgettable role, Hurley made it memorable, and Graham made it even more forgettable.
I did what I had to do. I'm a secret agent.
I think I want to skip over this part.
That's not all to say, there weren't some really clever moments. Cloning Dr. Evil 1/8 his size, resulting in Mini-Me, was pretty great. They also perfectly captured the zeitgeist of the time. With Dr. Evil appearing on Jerry Springer's, just the two of us, even some of the dirtier jokes are pretty good, as it gets to people talking in different parts of conversations that just happen to describe what a giant dick ship looks like.
Looks like a huge...
Pecker!
Oh, where?
Wait, that's not a woodpecker. It looks like someone's...
Private!
But yeah, you gotta sit through a lot of shit drinking, improv that was probably funny on set but not really in a movie, and jokes saying, get it? We know it's not funny, in a way that really needed a Norm Macdonald to help out.
Maiden name Spitz.
Well, which is it, baby? Spits or swallows?
But here's the thing. Austin Powers is kinda like that college friend who made everybody laugh, suddenly making it big. Even if he's doing what you know isn't his best material, you're just so glad other people are recognizing it. I know a lot of the jokes in this film weren't that great, but I love seeing everyone come together and laugh at something that felt like an inside joke everybody was in on. The original Austin Powers wasn't a huge hit, it was slowly discovered, and we liked discovering it. And the people in the theater were ready to see something silly they discovered be silly again. So, I think a lot of us gave it some leeway. Even the jokes that don't work are kind of so awkward they work their way around to being funny again. Like Hurley's death and that bizarre baby eating bit. The fact that these are never mentioned again in future Austin Power properties kind of makes them even more uncomfortably strange. Like, I have to laugh because I don't know how else to react to them. And laugh people sure did. As you'd imagine, everyone was quoting the movies, wearing the costumes, doing the voices. People couldn't get enough of Austin Powers. Until they did.
Yeah, Goldfinger.
Hello, and welcome back to our series on being 50 years old but trying to look like you're 12. Today, have you exfoliated with Stamps.com yet? Stamps.com is the perfect way to look young. Because when you're running a small business, every second counts. You can't afford to waste it.
In 2002, Mike Myers was arguably at the height of his career. Austin Powers 2 was a smash hit, Shrek came out, starting its own franchise. Everywhere he went, people were cheering and laughing at his jokes. So clearly, a third Austin Powers.
Gold member. Oh, that's what
Austin Powers Gold Member was the third and final-ish film in the series. Though the movie did gross more than the previous installment, you could tell the steam for the franchise was starting to die down a bit. Don't get me wrong, it was one of the top 10 highest grossing films of the year, but it was the lower top 10. Clearly other franchises were starting to take people's attention away. With that said, the film did seem a little better than the last one, but not by much. Audiences went, they laughed, and then forgot about it shortly after. Now make no mistake, for many comedies, getting a laugh is enough, especially if you're one of Myers' later films. But it was clear this didn't have the hold on people it used to. Probably the best and worst part is the very opening, where tons of celebrities play the Austin Powers roles in the film version Steven Spielberg is directing. Tom Cruise, Gwyneth Paltrow, Danny DeVito, Kevin Spacey, playing the appropriately titled evil. It was funny, but it showed the films weren't really an inside joke anymore. It was something big names wanted to be in just so they could be in it. And half the time, they didn't even know what to do with them. Michael Caine plays his father, and he does very little. Beyonce plays a parody of blaxploitation films, and she does very little. Even the title character, Goldmember, seems to have no identity outside of Michael Myers doing a funny voice.
Hey everybody, I am from Holland. Isn't that weird? Yes.
A lot of these scenes exist almost because it feels like they have to now. Myers has to play an additional part. Something has to have Dr. Evil's face on it. A song sequence has to happen with Mini-Me now. All of these worked in the past because it was taking a small, clever joke and running with it. Like the song in the last one worked because it was playing up his obsession with himself, even if it was a smaller version of himself, even over his own son. Now, it's just here because it was in the last one. But again though, the film isn't without its really funny moments. In this one, he travels to the 70s, and there's a great bit where it mocks how poorly subtitles used to stand out against other white objects on screen. That's actually pretty damn observant. Dr. Evil's son trying to make amends, now making Mini-Me the odd one out, is pretty funny. There's even a pretty good reveal about Austin and Dr. Evil at the end that makes so much sense, I'm almost wondering why they didn't work Fat Bastard and Goldmember into it too. But for the most part, the laughs in the movie were YouTube clips. Something you type in to get a quick laugh and say, yeah, maybe I'll check that movie out, and usually never do. It's almost like they were aware of this, as there's literally an entire section where we cut to them in school for a good chunk of the running time. Either that or they were trying to get a spin-off series going, I'm not sure. And yeah, how many times has someone responded to a comment with this clip?
How about no?
While audiences did laugh, nobody was really quoting it anymore. Nobody was dressing up like the characters. Nobody was saying, man, remember that great line Goldmember had? Or, as Fraser put it,
You realize that the Austin Powers craze is completely over?
Myers would find success in another franchise, and while yes, that lost steam too, many say it has a bit more of a timeless quality. It did reach a point though where returning to the characters brings up nostalgic memories for people, remembering the times when Austin Powers really was everywhere, and gave people a lot of good laughs. Looking back, I guess I think what a lot of people think. They're decent enough comedies. It's funny the first film is about Austin going into a time capsule because that's really what the films are. They're time capsules of going on Springer, singing a Will Smith song, bumping into Britney Spears after leaving Elizabeth Hurley for Heather Graham, while Beyonce stays relevant. Yeah, not all the jokes work, but the ones that do are really funny and do stick with you. They're the equivalent of the Despicable Me or Minions movies. They're not really great, but there is a relaxing turn-your-brain-off charm to them that isn't insultingly dumb, but just the right amount of dumb. It's the kind of dumb that has a little bit of a mind to it, and even a bit of a uniqueness for what they're satirizing, the time they're satirizing it, and the specific way they're satirizing it. I guess it's a strange thing to become a craze, but I don't know. I can think of far worse movie crazes to get sick of. This one at least had some clever writing to go along with it. I guess it was the right franchise at the right time, ironically making fun of another right franchise at the right time. I can't act like these are timeless masterpieces, but I don't think they need to be. They just need to be a funny escape for a few hours, and it clearly did that at the perfect time with the perfect crowd. I'm the Nostalgia Critic guy, remember it so you don't have to.
You know, we have to stop.
Yeah, I really gotta go back and watch the Austin Powers movies, except for Goldmember. Maybe Goldmember. I don't know. Kind of split on that one. Anyway, that's Austin Powers movie by Nostalgia Critic. Everyone take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.